in this day and age. First of all, I think many of our people don't understand their Old Testaments very well. If we are honest, we would have to admit that at times our understanding is much like those disciples on the Emmaus Road that Brother Kenny was just helping us think about. There are all kinds of attitudes and thoughts that abound from the Old Testament is just part of the book where God is a God of wrath. It's different than His Christ of love. There's this thinking, this wrong understanding that we are somehow New Testament Christians, and what that means is we are under grace and not under law. Poorly understood. Many reasons many sort of indications that our thinking about the Old Testament needs some tweaking, needs some work. We need this Bible study that Christ held on the Emmaus Road with the disciples. A second reason why this is timely for us is that too much of our preaching is moralistic and misses the point of the Old Testament scriptures. We fail in our effort to judge quickly from some passage in the law straight to our sort of need today. We fail to see that passage in its historical context, in the context of God redeeming for Himself a people, and fail to stop and notice in deeper ways, sort of marinate in how it is Christ fulfills that scripture. And missing all of that, we miss its meaning. We miss its treasure. We fail to see Christ as He ought to be seen. Those are a couple of general reasons why this is a timely topic for us now. A couple of reasons why this is a good topic for us as African Americans. As African Americans, we are a people who have a historical affinity for the Old Testament.
Amen.
We have read the Old Testament historically and have seen in the Exodus narrative, in the story of Israel, a story that resonates very much with our own. We have seen in that story the promise of a deliverer. So I think in some ways as people we're predisposed toward the Old Testament given our history. But now, this ought to make us more careful rather than familiar. Because there are at least two camps out there who appropriate this history of ours and the Old Testament and use it to two very different theological ends. So on the one pole, you have this sort of school of thought called Black theology that looks to the Old Testament, appropriates the Old Testament, and says God is a deliverer. And that what God is principally about, primarily about, is liberation. Now, not liberation from sin, from death, hell, and His wrath, but liberation from a certain set of political and economic and social circumstances. That the God we see in the Old Testament is a God we want to claim as one who is interested in how we're living now. And delivering us from the situation that we're in now. That's one pole. On the other pole are our word of faith friends. Sort of health, wealth, prosperity gospel friends. Now, if you add an adjective to the word gospel, it tends to be another gospel. There's no gospel at all.
That's right.
These our friends tell us by picking sort of favorite passages that promise blessings for obedience, etc. This God, running straight from Deuteronomy and Exodus and those covenant promises straight to us, wants for us to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, rich. Seeing the promise of cattle, a promise for a Benz for us today. Appropriating the Old Testament, the appropriating the law, and using it in a way theologically that completely bypasses the supremacy of Christ and the fulfillment of those passages that Christ has accomplished. And so today, we have these reasons for thinking about the law. One final reason for us to think about the law. Those of us who are preaching, those of us who are Christians. We live, we work, we sit beside in church. People who the destroyer is cannibalizing. He is devouring their souls and leaving their glistening white bones in a pile. You must preach Christ from the law because people are dying and facing the wrath of God.
Wow.
You must get this right. A few assumptions that'll guide the rest of this talk.